How many did you, like, toss aside and felt like you might have wasted your time?
I think I've done, I counted this out, between the international cases I've done and Connecticut cases, I've done about almost 200. That's a lot, but you have to remember Connecticut, I don't have a lot of field investigators in Connecticut, so when cases come in, I'm the one that's closing and investigating them. So just by default, I get all the cases. So that's why my numbers are so high. Some state directors have a little bit lower numbers, but they have more field investigators that they send the cases out to. Of that, I would say maybe like 1% is something of value. I think that's what people get most confused on, is that 99% of the stuff that they see in the sky is IFOs, man-made objects. They're planes, they're, I got into an argument once with someone, not an argument, I should take that back, but they were convinced that what they were looking at was a space station. And in fact, I showed them on a star chart that they were looking at Venus. And, it is what it is. But so a lot of them are man-made. A lot of them are just natural phenomena. I had one person that saw a rocket launch because every now and again when they launch rockets from the Virginia coastline, along our coastline, you can actually see them. You have to go to our coastline to see them, but you can. You can see a little tiny tail in the rocket going up. And I've had people send in reports saying that they've seen a UFO, but it was actually that particular rocket that was launching. It happens. So I think maybe about 1% or less is really something that's unknown, possibly UFOs.
Do they keep track of rocket launches? Can you, like, if you get something, you can look that up and say, oh, that was a rocket launch? Or is that all hidden information that you can't verify?
No, most rocket launches are, a lot of classified launches, they won't tell you what's on the payload, but they'll tell you that the rocket is launching. I use a website, a lot of times it's called spaceflightnow.com, which will list all of the rocket launches for a certain period. Space.com will list it. If it's a more popular website, they will actually have the news talk about it. So our local news might say it, like, for example, something like that is pretty rare in Connecticut, so our local news will pick it up and they'll say, hey, if you go to the shoreline today around X time and date and look in this direction, you'll see a rocket launch. So, yeah, it's pretty out there if you just look. There are also a lot of amateurs, satellite trackers that you have websites that will post, like, when certain satellites are coming overhead. So if you're interested in looking at satellites, that's also on the internet, like heavensabove.com or some of the other more popular satellite trackers. So a lot of this information is out there on the internet if you just dig around for it, or the media will cover it.
How do you differentiate our own reverse technology off of the Black Manta or the Black Astra? They're called TR3A and TR3B. But do you keep up with all the man-made black? Because when I was, in the business, watching the skies more, we didn't know that we had them secretly. Well, some of us did. Some of us did, but we worked inside the government. But how do you handle that? Because we do have black triangles. We've always had, I guess, mainly you can say back to World War II and Hitler and all that, but that's a whole story in itself. But where do you fit in? Do you actually say, no, that was actually a Manta or Astra? You keep up with all, like in the Air Force when I was training in Colorado, they had to teach us how to watch the skies and what we were seeing, and we had to be able to call them off. Do you have that in your area of expertise, or how do we deal with the black triangles now in your field as a researcher?
I don't have classified clearance or anything like that, and I don't have a source that will tell me, like, yeah, that's one of ours, that's not one of ours. Basically, what we do is we tell them, we'll tell the person, this is what we know about the TRB. This is what we know about the mana. It's possible that that's ours. It most likely could be ours. With the Hudson Valley UFO event, a lot of people thought those were ours, especially with the triangles coming out of upstate New York. We're just honest with them. We're all volunteers. Some people have access to other sources, like maybe you because you're in the military. I don't have those access to sources. And so we do the best we can. We document the case. I tell them a lot of times, UFO only means unknown. It doesn't always necessarily mean extraterrestrial. And that's an important distinction. It's not one that people like to hear because they always want to think extraterrestrial. But even UAV, which is the more common term now in ufology, is unknown aerial vehicle. It's unknown because we don't have enough information to determine that it is an IFO. So we be honest with the people. It's an important part of this field because once you lose your credibility and you get caught lying, you're done. You're cooked. So we tell them the truth. We tell them this is what we know about what's going on in the U.S. military. Your sighting kind of describes that, kind of describes these craft. It's possible that this is what they are, but we can't say 100%, at least not in Connecticut. Somewhere else, like maybe you could say, yeah, that's probably ours. But like I said, I'm just a civilian. I don't have the classified access to know that. And though we do have a National Guard in Bradley that's rather active, they're not going to just tell me either if it's something that's classified.
Well, you were on the STAR team, were you not? Did I read that, or am I just making that up? If you were,
I am on the STAR team. I was on the STAR team, and it's a great team. The idea of it is good, and I think it's an important asset that MUFON has, and they should utilize. So I'm a big component of it. I think it's a great idea, and
Can
they
you
do good work.
STAR team? Yeah, what is the STAR team? What is the STAR team?
The STAR team is basically like when I go do my lectures and people ask me what is the STAR team, I say it's like the best of the best. If you're going to have a crashed UFO sighting in your backyard and you call up MUFON and say, hey, yeah, there's a UFO in my backyard. It's an alien craft. Can you come out and investigate it? It will be the STAR team that will go. They're usually the investigators with the most experience. They're more senior than a lot of the junior investigators. They maybe had a little bit more training than the average investigator, maybe based on their professional careers or just that they've taken more courses within MUFON to get trained a little bit better. So that's really what the STAR team is they're the investigators that are one step above the average investigator, but they handle more of the sensitive cases, more of the timely cases, more of the high-profile cases in conjunction with national. I'm sure Jan can tell you a little bit differently, but that's the way I usually tell people what the STAR team is.
You know what year they started? Because they had Bigelow come in, Bigelow Aerospace, and I think they offered them roughly $35,000. I don't know for sure. Back in the day when I was getting involved, and I know Bear for Kentucky, two gentlemen that were working in Kentucky, Barry Gaunt. Are you familiar with Barry Gaunt of Kentucky?
I am not familiar with Barry.
Okay, that's okay. I'm sure that MUFON is huge with, people all over the United States plus 43 countries, I believe, is what Jan mentioned. Mm-hmm. It's hard to know, but the STAR team, do you know the history or what year? I'm asking you because I don't know, honestly, when the STAR team was created. I know they have a new patch for $9 you can buy for the STAR team patch, but other than that, the area research, do you know anything about when the STAR team began, or is it on the MUFON site maybe? Do they keep a history of them on, let's mention MUFON, what is it, MUFON.com? Mike? Where do they?
Mm-hmm.
Where do we send people to investigate?
You can send them to MUFON.com. If you go to our website, MUFONCT.com, there's a link there as well if you're in the Connecticut area and you want to learn about our chapter. But MUFON.com is the national website. And then if you are in a different state, they have a find your chapter by state and by country. So if you're like in Idaho or Nebraska or wherever, you can go on to the national website and then find your local chapter through the national website.
Do you know who handles the money that people pay in as members now? Is it handled out of...
I don't know how that works. I
okay.
believe that goes through national.
Folks.
But you could talk to Jan about that.
Yeah, I don't know either. So you and I don't know. You remember the STAR team, but you don't know when they started that. Was it 2012?
I don't know the exact year they start. I don't remember I don't know it. What I've understood about the creation of the STAR team, and I could be wrong on this, is they were started with Bigelow, but they are now, Bigelow got out of it. They liked the idea of the STAR team, and then when I got involved, they were trying to restart the STAR team to at least have one in each state. And the state director would be a member of the STAR team, and then after that, the state director would then find his or her most senior investigators and put them on the STAR team.
Okay. Well, that's good enough to start with. And, folks, we'll do our best to get some historical documentation going on. It's, from what I understand, the few minutes that I was able to speak personally with Jan Harzan was that they really only have him as one paid employee and an occasional office manager if he wants to cut her a check, from what I understand. He or she, I'm not even sure which it is, in California. So they do have a real office, folks. I have a real office in my home for UFO Association, but it's just me. And then Janet's my co-executive director in Maui, Hawaii, but we ran under Ascension Center organization. And the UFO, I'm just coming out and bringing that we were always there. We just weren't really allowed to let you know we were there. So I'm going to start a lot of controversy when I come out with my entire history and story, but how we mix civilian, contract, wage grade, GS, all the Joint Chiefs of Staff, the Allied Command, the Supreme Allied Command, and all of us have been working with all this in the Air Force, the Navy, and the Marines, and everybody. Of course, we've all been out there, but the civilian branch we like to call nonprofits, and they work with very little funds. But Mutual UFO Network, after APRO, I guess one might say, out of Wisconsin, is probably the one that stayed in existence the longest. And so apparently they did set it up with a profit as a nonprofit in Wisconsin. So, and before that was a man and wife that had a very good idea, and that's the whole history behind that. But it's still in existence today. And the name we mentioned was Jan Harzan, and he said he'd come on probably the first week of March, which isn't too far away. He's doing a couple of cruises. They're going out to speak, and they have various speakers on these cruises, one out of Florida and one out of San Diego. Are you going on that cruise, Mike, or are you like us? We have very limited funds. We can't go do that. It'd be fun. But
no, I have limited funds. I have other things I need to spend my money on right now. Maybe someday.
Yeah.
I do think it would be fun, but not right now.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Danny.
I want to ask another question. Okay, so you're investigating all these cases, and you said it's very interesting. So what keeps, like, how many come in? Do you go something every day? Does it take weeks before something comes in? What's your life like, the MUFON director?
My daily life with them. Well, so I run everything. So I run our monthly meetings every first Saturday of the month, and then during the warmer months we do sky watches, and I run a book club and the net. So I always got something going on. So with regards to the meeting, my daily routine would be I'm booking a speaker, getting the notes for the meeting set, what's going on in the way of upcoming events. Things like that. For the once sky watching start, I'm sending out notifications